The Mandalorian, Chapter 21, or Episode 5 of Season 3, The Pirate. So, I'm just going to go out and say this right now before we even get into this whole breakdown and review. This is no longer a story about Din Djarin and Grogu or Baby Yoda. I think we just have to reach that point and accept it, that this is going to become a bigger story than just them, which is fine. I'm going to miss the show just being kind of them at some points, I suppose. But I did kind of hope we'd go more into Din Djarin's story in general more in this show rather than a full-blown like Mandalorian, New Republic, Imperial storyline, all that stuff, but that's what we're doing now. So we're not really just focusing on Din, but I do hope we get some more of him. But Chapter 21, The Pirate, you can already assume with the title name what we're going to get in this episode. We're back to Navarro. So Navarro is obviously run by Greef Karga, and I don't like the Navarro stuff and pirate stuff that much in this episode at all. It's the least interesting stuff, and it's kind of the silliest stuff to me. But we get this pirate seaweed captain guy that was in like the first episode, Gorian or something like that. That's his name, and he's coming back for revenge because Mando and Greef Karga attacked some of his guys in the first episode. That's literally the plot of why these pirates are now trying to come in and take control of Navarro. And that's it. They start blowing up the place. All the citizens run out of Navarro. There's this cool, flourishing, awesome new city or town in Navarro there. And it's literally, when they run out and you see the group, it's like the smallest group of people ever. It's like there's like 20 or 30 people in all of Navarro. Kind of weird. But this alerts the attention, or Greef Karga contacts, I'm trying to remember his name, Carson something. He's the New Republic pilot that we see every now and then in The Mandalorian. He was talking to Cara Dune last season, where she was probably going to be in the show with him, probably in the New Republic show, but unfortunately that is canceled. I wish it was still happening, but he is now kind of in the plot of this show, and he's being contacted by Greef Karga because they've interacted before, and Greef Karga needs help from the New Republic because pirates are trying to take over Navarro now. So we get the scene of him, hearing the message, and then we get the most shoehorned, silly, and usually I would have liked to see this because it is still kind of fun to see it, because I don't have an issue with this character. We get a big cameo, and it's a big cameo, but it's also the most unnecessary cameo one of the most unnecessary cameos I think I've ever seen in the latest Star Wars stuff. Now we've seen lots of ridiculous cameos in The Mandalorian and all that stuff, but this is a really big one. Now, a lot of people are going to be liking this, especially Star Wars Rebels fans, but this is Zeb from Star Wars Rebels animated series. I think this is the first member of the Ghost crew or whatever in this show, from that show, like finally showing up in like The Mandalorian or any of these shows really. This is like the first one from the main crew themselves that I can think of, at least at this moment. But he is apparently part of the New Republic now. Last time we saw him, he was going off. It was right after the Empire was defeated, and he was going off with Callus or whatever. I don't know what they were doing. He was going to his home world or something, but now he's back with the New Republic, and we clearly know it's Zeb. I think it's listed in the credits, and the voice is literally Zeb. It's the same voice. You can clearly understand it's the same voice. It's the same look. It looks like Zeb. So this is Zeb from Star Wars Rebels, and he's basically with the New Republic now, and that's it. There's no purpose to him in this episode. Now, are they going to bring him in later? Maybe at this point. Maybe it's going to be like an Ahsoka thing. I have no idea. But they really did just randomly drop this. And it's kind of funny because it made no purpose to the episode whatsoever. And it's really, really silly. And I do like Star Wars Rebels. It's a really good thing that Disney ended up making, at least I think. At least to some of the bigger moments of that show. And I like the character. I think the character is fine, but it just made no sense for this moment. But he is in this episode for a brief moment. Then we have Carson Vega, or I don't even know his name, but he goes off to the New Republic to search for help to help Navarro, and basically the New Republic doesn't want to help Navarro because they're not really allied with the New Republic or even like an Imperial ally thing. So they don't really want to help. It's like, we have more important things to deal with. People that are actually allied with the New Republic, they are wanting help too, and we have to prioritize them. So he's not really getting much assistance. And we also do run into the Imperial lady from episode, I think, 3. Yeah, episode 3, a few episodes ago. She was with Pershing and all that stuff. We're catching up back up with her again. We know she's kind of like undercover, and she kind of makes these weird statements about how Moff Gideon and they bring up Moff Gideon, how there's like this big rumor that he never even made it to trial, and he never even made it to basically, New Republic prison or whatever, and no one ever really saw him on trial. And she ends up saying things like, "Oh, we've got to serve the New Republic, and we'll teach them their ways." Something about Navarro, and it's just a brief interaction. But most of the conversation is around Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon is a central talking point, at least with the New Republic stuff. We had some conversation in episode 3 about him too, and it's starting to ramp up more and more about what's actually going on with Moff Gideon. Where did he go? Did he ever go on trial, or did he not? Is he in prison right now, or is he not? That's the main topic, and we are assuming that she is working for him. That's my thought, and a lot of people are thinking that as well, that she's working for him right now, and he's not. And he is not in prison right now. He has escaped by this point. That is the theory. So we jump back to Navarro stuff, and I said it from the beginning. The Navarro stuff with the pirates is the most silly, ridiculous thing in this whole episode. I don't like it. I think it's really stupid. The battle scenes with the ships and stuff, Mando's ship and whatnot later is cool, but I mean, look at this group. This is supposed to be all the citizens of Navarro that ran off and escaped the pirate attack. We've seen how big Navarro has gotten. It is supposed to be a flourishing town now, and there's like, 20, 30 people in this crowd. All right, where did they all go? Did they just get all blasted to pieces like a moment ago, or what? What's going on? Very, very. It looks really low budget with this. They're doing more volume stuff, whatnot. So Carson, he ends up going to the Mandalorians. Apparently, he was able to track down the Mandos by tracking R5, because R5 is still with them. Apparently, the droid that Din used on Mandalore, he still has it, and he can track that droid because it helped them in the New Republic or the rebellion at some point. So he was able to find the Mandalorians by that. Very, very convenient, don't you think? But he's able to find the Mandalorians, and this is the only time they mention actually leaving. Now they're like, oh my god, he found this place, now he knows where we are, we need to leave. You couldn't leave when you got attacked by a big alligator thing. You couldn't leave when you get like weekly attacked by this dragon thing every week. You have to leave now. When this random New Republic guy finds you, now you have to leave, but not when you're getting murdered and attacked and like ripped apart by all these creatures on this. Like, okay. Then we get this whole scene after, because he leaves, and then they're in this debate of, are the Mandalorians going to help? Carson wants the Mandalorians to help because the New Republic cannot. He's not getting New Republic aid, so he finds Din Djarin, he finds the Mandalorians and asks them to help Navarro instead, because he still wants to help Navarro. And Din Djarin gives this whole speech around the fire, whatnot, and then Paz Vizsla gets up, gives this whole speech around the fire, basically, well, we're Mandalorians, this is the way, all that crap. Really, it's not really that much. It's kind of just some, go get him type of speech. It's kind of a speech to get them all amped up and ready to go fight for Navarro, and that Greef Karga is someone who has helped him before, and I want to repay that and whatnot. So he's a good friend, and that's kind of the whole point of it. So he wants to, get help for Greef Karga, and ultimately they do go and help. So the Mandalorians and Bo-Katan are setting up this whole plan. We only have 2 ships, so you have Bo-Katan's ship and Din's ship, and they're going to use the ships to kind of distract the pirate ship while all the Mandalorians deploy onto the town and take out all the pirates. So this is the point where I can kind of skip through this real quick. It's a big battle scene with all of like Din Djarin's ship and Bo-Katan's ship. They're battling the little fighters of the pirates. You got Seaweed Man here. He's back as well. He's getting all pissed off and whatnot. Mandalorians, they go into the town. They wipe out all the pirates in town itself. And they save the day. That's it. So they defeat him. They crash the ship. The main, that main other guy that was serving for the pirate guy, the Gorian guy, he was serving him. He kind of flew off, betrayed him. I kind of mentioned that because I think we'll see him again at some point. But The pirate stuff, really, it was really silly to me. Some people might like it. I like the fight scenes a little bit, but it was overall just a really silly plot point to me. And yeah, it is what it is. The whole Navarro thing was kind of dumb. At the end of the fight, Grief Karga mentions they have this whole area of Navarro now where they can live. So they may not have a planet anymore, as they say, but now they have a home once again on Navarro. They seem to accept, and now they were on Navarro before. They were like living underground in like season 1, but they're back now, and he's letting them live freely in their own space on Navarro. So I'm assuming this is just where we're going to be now for the Mandalorians. I don't know how long we'll be there, but Navarro really seems to be this big main planet that we're always going to stick with here in this show. That's fine. It's whatever. They were there before. It kind of makes sense for them to come back now. But then we get this really weird scene where the Armorer and Bo-Katan are once again talking about like the forge that she's at, all these different forges, like a big forge on Mandalore itself, and it ultimately leads to the Armorer saying to Bo-Katan to take your helmet off. You are different. You are very special. You are a very unique type of Mandalorian. And the Armorer seems to be reinvigorated with like this whole new like sense of, we can bring all the Mandalorians back together again. You can go get this other side of Mandalorians that you've known and you're a part of in some way, and you can bring them to us in our Mandalorian ways, and we can unite the creeds together. I don't know where this came from the Armorer. It really just seemed like it came out of nowhere. Suddenly now she's just okay with Bo-Katan taking her helmet off and basically saying at the end, Bo-Katan is the one to unite us all. So that right there is my reasoning why this is just not a Din Djarin story anymore. This is not a Din Djarin Baby Yoda story anymore. At least in this season it isn't. At least for the Mandalorians, this is a Bo-Katan story. Okay, this has been Bo-Katan focused from basically the second episode when she mainly came in. This is her story. The whole Mythosaur thing, once the Armorer saw her, Bo-Katan mentioned she saw the Mythosaur and that changed something with the Armorer, and now she says to go off, find other Mandalorians, and unite us all. It's very, very strange, and she's just okay with her helmet getting taken off now. It's weird, but I hope we get to see more of Din Djarin some more. It's his show. It is his show, and I just find it very strange, but I guess we're just building a bigger story now. I don't know. But she's kind of taken his show over at this point, and I find it weird. I do find it weird, but that's kind of the plot point for right now on the Mandalorian's story itself. But then we get this last scene with Carson Teva, and he is flying his X-Wing out after basically, getting the Mandalorians the help, and he's just kind of on his way back to wherever at this point. And he runs across a ship. There's a floating ship just floating around in space that was apparently transferring Moff Gideon. So, of course, he just happens to come across a ship that was transferring Moff Gideon himself. So, he finds out that this ship has been attacked. It has been, Moff Gideon has been extracted from the ship. He is not on the ship. There are floating New Republic bodies. The troopers is like dead inside, and he realizes that Moff Gideon is gone. So Moff Gideon never did make it to trial. He was never sent anywhere, and he has escaped. And this is the big theory that everyone basically came up with right away. Like, of course, Moff Gideon is going to be around. We knew he was going to be in the season. We didn't know how much, but we did know he was going to be coming back. I'm sure we'll see him maybe even next week. But at the end, when he was scanning the ship and the remnants of the ship, he wants to see what things are left behind from this attack on the ship. And he realizes that there are little bits of Beskar embedded on the ship itself. And that leads him to believe that, are there Mandalorians that are helping Moff Gideon escape? Were there Mandalorians that helped Moff Gideon escape? And what does this mean? Because the Mandalorians so far that we've seen in this show have been very anti-Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon essentially attacked them. So we do know there's lots of different Mandalorians out there. Bo-Katan is, she is one of those Mandalorians that were kind of out there separate from the creed that Din Djarin is part of with the Armorer. So we know there's been lots of different factions of Mandalorians. We know there's been Mandalorians that have served the Empire in Star Wars Rebels, for example. There's been, Imperial Mandalorians Mandalorians. So is this like a faction of Mandalorians that is helping Moff Gideon and the Empire rise again? Maybe. I don't know the whole story. There's been theories of Moff Gideon being Mandalorian himself. Maybe they'll do something like that. I don't know, but right now that is the big thing ending the episode is Moff Gideon was apparently saved by Mandalorians and there is Beskar embedded on the ship that he was being transported on. I don't know where it's going to go, but I will say this has been a much better episode of the season for sure. I think this is probably the best development in the episode we've gotten, or the season so far we've gotten. I liked episode 2 the most in the season for sure, when he went back to Mandalore and redeemed himself and whatnot. But this is definitely, I think, my second favorite episode of the season. It's been a very slow burn. The first 4 episodes feel very, very strangely put together. And it doesn't feel totally put together yet. It still feels kind of randomized and the story doesn't feel too concrete, but we're kind of connecting things now. I kind of understand what they're doing a little bit more. There's this bigger threat out there that is looming, and this Carson Teva guy, he's really, really feeling like there's something bigger out there. Some may theorize it's maybe Thrawn or just an Imperial uprising once again. I don't know what it is. A lot of people think that it could also lead to the First Order and all the sequel crap. I'm sure will lead to the sequel stuff at some point. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people saying it's not going to happen. It will happen at some point. But right now, is this what that is, or are we going to be dealing with Thrawn first before any of that? I don't know. Mandalorian, they're trying to build a bigger story than Din and Grogu. I see what they're doing a little bit here, and we'll see if it actually pans out or if it's just a big dud. I don't know, but it was a much better episode this week, and we have 3 left to build whatever they're trying to do, and we'll see where it goes. But this was definitely the best development so far in Season 3 of Mando, and we'll see where the story goes. We've got to give it 3 more episodes before I can really give my full opinion, but been a rocky season. Pretty good episode, though.